If you see illegal dumping,
Dob in a dumper.
See it, report it, stop it.
Well, good morning. The time being 9 a.m, I declare open the general meeting for the Gladstone Regional Council for the 20th of July 2021. No apologies. We have Councillor Hanson online this morning, so all are present. We'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is messages of condolence. Councillors, do we have any messages of condolence? Thank you. No messages of condolence. The next item on the agenda is the prior notifications of conflicts of interest, and Councillor O'Grady has a conflict of interest to record. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I, Councillor Desley O'Grady, advise that in agenda item G8.1 out of round policy water leak concession request, lot 14 SP 210496, I have prescribed conflict of interest as my brother John Murgard is the owner of the business located at lot 14 SP 210496. As a result of my conflict, I will leave the meeting room while this matter is being considered and voted on.
Thank you, Councillor O'Grady. Any other conflicts, councillors? No, we'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is G1, which is the Mayor's statement on current issues. And firstly, I'd start by saying, after our last council meeting, the following day, we made the announcement of the funds raised from the Santos GLNG Mayor's Charity Ball. And I'm very proud to say that this year we raised $101,564.60, which is a fantastic effort from everyone involved. So can I thank Santos, our major sponsor. They've been partners for this significant charity fundraiser since the very beginning. All our major industry partners, all the small businesses that donated auction items and prizes, the team here at the GECC, and they just did an amazing job, but also our volunteer committee. Thank you to everyone who's volunteered on that committee to raise those funds, and everyone who attended on the night. Sold out event, I think it was 450 people here at the GECC, and to raise $101,000, $564.60, is an outstanding effort, and that money will be split evenly between 4 local beneficiaries, which is Nullandu Health Services, Rosebery Queensland, Mindcare Gladstone and Zonta Club of Gladstone. So well done to those 4 local beneficiaries. I'm sure they'll use those funds wisely. This weekend in the Gladstone region, as the Relay for Life is being hosted at Chanel College, and Councillor Churchill might speak about that in council reports. He's organising the council team. We'll be there participating in the event, and I'll be there for the first half of the day at least. So thank you, Councillor Churchill, for organising that. Also this weekend we have the Australian National Busking Championships, which is a new event for us and should be pretty exciting around the region as well. And on the 1st of August, we have the Bunaraby State School Country Fair. It's always a fantastic event in Bunaraby, so I encourage everyone to get out and about and support the Bunaraby State School for their country fair on the 1st of August. The same day, the Agnes Water Active Riders are celebrating their 3rd birthday, and then on the 31st of July, the QCWA in Mount Larkham are celebrating their 90th birthday. There's a street parade at 9:30. There's a reunion dance. It's going to be a fantastic event in Mount Larkham. So I certainly encourage everyone to get involved and enjoy the street parade. That's for sure. It'll be a fantastic day in Mount Larkham. And just wrapping up, I want to congratulate the Sun Valley or Harbour City BMX Club for hosting the state series on the weekend. A record number of attendees competing there at the Sun Valley track, and of course they're putting in their bid to get the state championships next year, so that should be exciting. And it would be remiss of me not to mention the massive success of Luminous. 2-day event at the Tondoon Botanic Gardens, and of course the Ignite the Heritage buildings on the Thursday before. Thousands of people through the gates at the Botanic Gardens. Thank you, Councillor O'Grady and Councillor Hanson, for helping me hand out the glow sticks till we run out. We gave out literally, I don't know, 10, 15, 20,000, something like that, ridiculous amounts of glow sticks. The kids loved them. It was an amazing event, and we won the award for that in 2019. I think we'll certainly go well to winning another award for that. There was 3 times as many lights. Everyone walking out after the event just said how amazing it was. So congratulations, I think Kim, Bridget and everybody who was involved. And I think Lauren did an amazing job there as well. So from what I understand, there was no hiccups and the team did an amazing job. So thank you, and I'm sure everyone who attended Luminous certainly will echo our thanks to the team for putting that event on. The next item on the agenda is the confirmation of the minutes. So G2.1 is the confirmation of the general meeting minutes for the 6th of July 2021. Can I have a mover, please? Move Councillor Cameron, seconded Councillor Muscat. Is any business arising? No new business arising. I'll put the motion. All in favour? Motion's carried. Thank you, Councillor Hanson. The next item on the agenda is officers' reports. And G3.1 is the monthly financial report for the period ending the 28th of June 2021. And I'll hand over to the General Manager of Finance, Governance and Risk, Mark Holmes. Thank you, Mark.
Morning, Mayor and Councillors. This report is the monthly financial statements which were prepared on the 28th of June, so just prior to the end of financial year on the 30th of June. What you'll see throughout the report is that we are essentially tracking within around 95 to 90% of budget on most items. You'll see that there will be a number of adjustments though that will occur as part of our year-end adjustments, recognising the appropriate accruals, and I'm happy to talk through those items where we see those significant adjustments. The refinancing transaction from Council took place after this report was prepared, and happy to say that the early repayment adjustment on that has come in below what was forecast in that space. So the forecast there of $21.5 million that we had budgeted due to some movements in interest rates has seen us realise a actual repayment adjustment of $17 million. So there'll be a positive impact on our operating position in that space. With respect to our rates revenue, we'll see that sitting at around about 93% of our expected budget at 92.9. That will come up to close to that 100% mark once we run the final rate run, which will include the water consumption levy for essentially the water used in the 6 months to the end of June. With respect to our capital revenue we're expecting a number of invoices to be raised with respect to the works being completed in and around the 30th of June. So those works and contracts will be recognised back into the 20/21 financial year. To date, we just hadn't raised those as at the 28th of June. So the major, with respect to our employee benefits, that's sitting a little bit over there at 102.6%. That'll come back slightly because once we do our capitalisation, we'll capitalise some expenses associated with those people where our workforce has worked on some capital projects. So we'll see that come very close in to that budget amendment of that $65.9 million. Similarly, donations is tied, that is running below budget there at 80%. That will come a little bit higher, probably close another $400,000 worth of donations will be recognised when we recognise our concession associated with our water subsidies. That'll come through again with the rate run. So that'll come through at that time and accrued back into the previous financial year. With respect to our capital expenditure, still tracking very close to where we hoped we would be. So we amended the budget ever so slightly from the 64.8 to 65.1. At the moment, sitting at 62.9. So heading very close to that capital expenditure number at this point in time. Pleasingly, with respect to our outstanding rates, very pleased to announce, so we actually are under 5% for the first time in a long time with respect to our recoveries. So at the end of June, we'll be certainly in and around the 4.5% of outstanding rates. So that's I'd like to see it a bit lower, but certainly from a health of our business, we do like to see that indicator below 5%. So that's a very good effort in that space. With respect to our sustainability indicators, they're as expected at this point in time, and no real flags at this point. But happy to take questions.
Thanks. Questions to the General Manager, Councillor Brentwood.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Mine's just more of a comment. I just want to congratulate the team. I think the actual organisation and the regions being managed in a physical way, they're probably second to none. I really do take my hat off to these, especially the results that have come out now. It's one of those things that's really quite hard to manage. It's such a big operation. From the outside looking in and seeing these figures, it's quite astounding how well managed it is financially, and congratulations to you all.
Thank you. Any other questions, councillors? Councillor Hanson?
I would be happy to move that, Mr Mayor.
Move Councillor Hanson, seconded Councillor Churchill. No further questions, comments? I'll put the motion. All in favour? That motion is carried. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is G3.2, which is water allocations and sewage connection concession policy, and I hand back to you, Mark. Thank you. And welcome, James.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. James Bentley, our Manager of Revenue, will join me for this report. So this concession policy is what gives you the head of power to grant a concession for water connections, but also sewage connections and water use for a number of our community groups and sporting facilities throughout the region. There has been some work done on this policy that looks at extending our current policy, particularly to giving consideration for some community garden use, and there's been some rewording of the concession to ensure that we're providing that clarity to the community, particularly with respect to availability of fields. There's been some challenge with respect to that and how we outwork that. So no real significant change, but the addition of the community gardens that's the main change from the policy. This policy provides assistance in the order of around $700,000 a year to our sporting and community groups. And this will be applied with respect to the notices that are to be raised for the 21-22 financial year, and also for applied back into the 2021 usage through to June.
Thank you, Mark. Questions to Mark, General Manager, please. Councillor Trevor.
Thanks, Mayor. I just had one question in relation to the consideration component of the report, where it says other changes recommended include excluding the water consumption concession for those playing fields that have access to treated effluent water. My question to you is, if that treated effluent water system breaks down and it's necessary for a club or clubs to use an alternate water supply provided by the Gladstone Regional Council, will they be eligible to apply for a concession in respect of that water?
Yeah, so at the moment they are included, but that was a consideration to exclude them. So they have been included for that very reason. Where we do have the case where we've got had some issues with supply of effluent water to a number of community groups. And that the system was interrupted for a number of months. So what we saw was those community groups using essentially normal treated water instead of effluent. So they did receive a concession with respect to that. So this just provides a clarity for that. We did consider not including that because they do have that access available to them. So that is available for you to make that amendment should you wish, and then you could make an amendment to the policy to include that, should those, should breakages occur. But we believe that what's been recommended to you provides that comfort that, should we have an interruption, there is that clarity that those groups will be supported.
Councillor Muscat.
Thank you. Just wanted to thank you for taking our feedback and some of the community needs into consideration when reviewing the policy. I'm actually quite happy, even though I'm not jumping up and down. I am. So yeah, I think it's the changes on community gardens is going to help some of our organisations continue that work, which is, I guess, as vital to the community as sporting grounds, and I just hope that it's going to make it easier with the increased needs of water for those type of things. And I know that those community gardens are also very conscious about the use of water. So helping them financially is going to make a big difference to them. Thank you.
Thank you, councillors. Any further questions? Councillor Cameron.
Yeah, thank you. Mark, just on the use of effluent water for sporting clubs, if there was a situation where the effluent wasn't available and it was over a prolonged period of time, so they've got to use reticulated treated water, and there is an effluent agreement in place, would that affect that effluent agreement if there's a consideration paid to the club?
No.
It would continue.
This concession it would be different, a separate head of power. So the effluent agreement is one document and one essentially head of power. This is another. So
Okay. So it just would continue.
yeah, that's right.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, this is providing surety to those clubs. Yeah.
Excellent. Any further questions? Councillor Muscat would be happy to move. Councillor Hanson, did you have any questions?
I had a question, but I'll ask you later. It's the old chestnut regarding page 5 of the marked up. Page 2 of the marked up policy, and the last paragraph on public access. How do we police that sort of stuff? Is that going to be policed or insisted upon with the clubs that have those sort of facilities?
Lisa or Mark?
I was just going to say it's important to clarify how the policy is written meets your requirements there, Councillor Hanson, because it does indicate that delegate to myself as CEO to make decisions, and it does have wording in there around where it's appropriate, or I can find the exact words, but there are obviously instances where fields need to be fenced and locked so that vehicles don't access them. So it's making sure they're available should the public, want to and need to use them. So it's a difficult one to make a black and white policy statement on. So that's why the recommendation here is to provide me with delegation to make decisions on a case-by-case basis.
That's good. The policy's good.
Yes, Councillor Hanson, I agree. If the community are providing a significant water allowance or allocation to a sporting club on a land most likely held in trust by the council on behalf of the state and leased probably for a peppercorn, we should certainly make those facilities available to the community to use, and I'm pretty sure that happens. So it's moved by Councillor Muscat. Seconder, please. Seconder, Councillor Brentwood. No further discussion? Sorry, Councillor, good luck.
Thanks, Mr Mayor. Mark, there was discussion a fair while ago now, but around, for example, not-for-profit, one particular example, a not-for-profit kindergarten in Calliope, I think, that was looking for some assistance. Under this policy, I understand that they wouldn't be eligible. Is that the case? And is that mainly around the accessibility for public
That's one
eligibility? Is that the main issue why they would not be eligible?
I suppose when we look at the nature of the policy, it's to support, obviously, community organisations. There's a focus on one aspect and one limb on sporting grounds. Obviously, sporting grounds or playing fields is not applicable in the case of a kindergarten. It all hinges on the definition of what a community group is. So if it is a community group, technically they'll make an application under the policy, but the circumstances of that club of that kindergarten in particular I'm just wondering about the actual background of that.
So they're not-for-profit group, so I suppose so they are a community group in that respect, running the kindergarten, and they've got a quite large area, obviously, with gardens and grass that the kids have to play in. So does that answer your question?
In other words, it's just the normal operation of a kindergarten, whether it's for profit or whether it's community. That's just the normal course of business of a kindergarten operation. Effectively speaking, because there isn't the public access, and there's not even enough public access for the CEO to delegate what a reasonable public access is, because I'd argue that any type of public access on effectively land that's prepared especially for children, I mean, they've got things set up for them, they've got different furniture in their play area, and I think perhaps any type of public access to that could potentially have a detrimental effect and undermine the operations of the business itself. So that would be an important consideration to bear in mind before to actually make a judgment as to whether or not it's reasonable to have any public access at all.
Yeah,
I'd strongly suggest that it was inappropriate in that case.
No, and I'm not suggesting that we would grant them access and mandate that they have to open the kindergarten to the public. But I am trying to differentiate between the, if we take the garden clubs, the community garden groups, or the sporting fields, and then that, which we've touched on around that public access, that there's a number of these groups and organisations that realistically have the exact same challenges there. They probably would prefer not to have open slather public access, and some of them operate in that manner. So where do we differentiate the line is...
Well, I suppose that the spirit of this particular policy is, whether it's a not-for-profit sporting club or a not-for-profit community organisation, there is something about the nature of the activity that brings people together in an extracurricular type of way. So in other words, there's a special interest that people are involved in. It's not a work-related interest, it's maybe a sporting interest, or it's a community interest, a gardening interest.
But
So
I could mount, and this is probably just a question around how we apply this policy. I can mount the same argument that a community not-for-profit organisation that is providing healthcare services, critical services for a community, making sure that they're looking after our children, enabling parents to go out and work and contribute to society. So we can have all sorts of different arguments around social impacts. We obviously understand sport, and we've certainly supported sport play and sporting playing fields in traditionally. So I'm just, I can't go out and say to the kindergarten that you're not providing a community service, because I sort of think that they are. That is a community service. It's not a sporting group. It's not a sporting playing field, but it's a different type of community service. So how are we applying a consistent sort of fairness across the board with respect to that policy? And it's probably a question for councillors to consider. This is a policy that has traditionally been an allocation to sporting clubs. We've got a number of other community groups providing valuable services, and the reality is water is an expensive resource and a critical resource for many of those groups. How come I've had many discussions with a lot of those groups, as no doubt many of you have as well. We're not accounting for those other groups in this policy, and that's something that we need to consider. Are we happy with where it is? I understand the intent of the policy. We're trying. I do. I'm happy to support it here today if that's where we land, but we do have gaps in that policy, and I have raised those other groups which probably haven't been considered through this policy review, which is fair enough, but where do we want to land? That's my question.
I think too, Councillor Goodluck, as we've been attending the Scouts as well, and I know they just sent a CSR in the last few weeks about whether they could have some water to water their fields, water their grounds and whatever for the kids to play when they go to Scouts. So I think you've got a very good suggestion there.
I like what both of you councillors are saying. I support the kindergarten, I support the Scouts. You need to go back to the origin of this policy. This policy is put in place because councils would otherwise be responsible for watering these fields. So most of these fields, by and large, are estate-controlled land held in trust by the council. We're trusted to these lands, which we then sublease or lease to a sporting community group to provide the sport and playing fields for the community to use. If those were handed back to council, we would be responsible for watering those fields, right? So let's remember the origin of the policy. I'm very happy to add in garden clubs, and this was, I believe, the request of Councillor Muscat. Probably, technically, this should have been left alone as sporting clubs and made another policy for garden clubs, because this policy is really about council providing assistance to those sporting clubs that would otherwise hand them back to council and say, you know what, we can't afford to water these blocks of land. We can't afford to provide football fields, soccer fields, hockey fields, or whatever those fields might be, whether it's netball or softball. There's plenty of options, opportunities there for you. So council, we can't afford that, you have them back. So we gave them a 3,000 kilolitre allocation, which we've now increased to a 5,000 kilolitre allocation for their sporting fields. And then we entrust those sporting clubs to manage those fields within their allocation. If they go over, it's then up to the members of those clubs to pay the allocation of the extra. I have absolute support for kindergartens, scouts and Girl Guides and other organisations that use water as well, but I don't think this is the policy to be putting it in. And as I said, I actually think we probably should have put the garden club in another one, but it's fitted in here nicely today, and I'm happy to support the allocation as it is, and happy to look at other ways to support kindergarten, scouts, Girl Guides, whoever else, other community groups. There'll be men's sheds, there'll be country women's associations, there'll be
Aged care, Mr. Matt.
Oh, if you're getting off the profit,
aged care centres,
yeah, so there's
pipe bands,
lots of
musical groups, service to the community.
Yeah, sorry, I'm coming to you, Councillor. I hadn't finished, so. So, yes, I know what you're saying, and probably it would be lovely to support them all, but this is not the policy, I don't believe, to be putting that into. So that's my personal opinion. Councillor Muscat, you want to speak?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to also put it into perspective, and while I like to also support all community organisations that use water, that's probably, again, I agree with you that it might be a different piece of work. We will obviously have to go and assess how much that will cost council to do that. There's hundreds of community organisations that pay water, that have facilities. Now, the way I see it, it's also about the core business of those organisations. So sports, in a way, you couldn't play if you didn't have the grass. The same thing happens with community gardens. It's about growing plants and growing things, and those need water, so it's critical to their existence. While it's not the same case for a kindergarten. Kindergarten doesn't, it's just one part of a number of different wonderful things they do. So the same as the Country Women's Association, I'm a president of one of them, and it's our choice to have a garden. We don't have to have one. So our business and our mission and our purpose is not around growing something that requires water. So that's the way I see it, and why I'm really keen to see this happening. And it's not like I want to disadvantage other organisations that are also not for profit, but I see them as a separate piece of work that we can't just. If we were to do that, then it will cost the ratepayers a lot of money, and it's probably not actually even necessary, because many of those community organisations are okay to pay those fees. So that's where I'm coming from, really. So it is vital to the purpose and the mission of those organisations.
Thank you, Councillor Muscat. Councillor O'Grady?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. James, I just had a question, and it was about actually CWA. They do have a community garden here. And just taking what Councillor Muscat just said about, that's not their purpose, but I think the purpose of CWA, for instance, is for the health and well-being of women in the community. So I'm just wondering, could you answer that for me? Thanks.
And we'd all like to pay tribute to the work they do. I think I've spoken to one of the office holders of the Country Women's Association, and some of perhaps as was foreshadowed by the Mayor, we are able to prepare advice for your consideration regarding perhaps a different policy which would address the types of groups you're talking about. I know with the Country Women's Association, from memory, the particular assessment I was talking about by
Gladstone.
It wasn't council property. They own land freehold themselves sometimes too, which would put them out straight away under this policy. So that's why maybe there's an option for having a consideration, as Councillor Goodluck has foreshadowed as well, of maybe doing something to consider this broader matter, but in a more appropriate context, out of without being straddled, if you like, by the considerations which really inform this particular policy, because they might not be appropriate to consider a broader extension of that.
Yeah, sorry, James, I'd have to clarify that. I thought clubs that had freehold land were included as well. I know the majority of clubs in the region are council state-controlled land held in trust, as I said before, but there are a number, and I can think of one, which used to be Wolves Soccer Club, is now Central. It's freehold title. They're not qualify.
Yeah, so freehold property isn't an automatic exclusion. Yeah, there's other criteria to meet.
My reading of this is that the Gladstone Country Women's Association, which has a community garden, would qualify. But they would qualify because they have a community garden, not because they're a Country Women's Association.
Correct. Yeah, and we obviously provide support to a number of organisations through other different policies as well. We've got our community investment policy and the like. So, yeah, and we've got hall subsidies and how we provide support in those spaces. So, we would need to look at how we provide the additional support that has been questioned, and we can look at how we make amendments to either this policy or that community investment policy to cater for those.
Yeah, sorry, just to the freehold, obviously they own freehold land, but there are so many other aspects under this policy which might mitigate against a grant, whereas it could be allowable perhaps in another policy that council would consider.
Thank you. Councillor Goodluck, back to you.
Yeah, look, I just don't think we should get into arguments around what sort of groups or organisations provide more value or a more worthy. I support the policy today. I take on board comments around, looking at a different policy. It must have been 3 years ago I sent through this information for consideration in this policy. It's not considered here today. So we'll try and do that work, and that is frustrating, not just for me, but for those other groups. I absolutely take on board the fact that there is a cost, and the fact that, there's also the fact that we've got, I think, just over 50% of water in the dam at the moment. Water is a precious resource. We do have to make some of those decisions around who we can support and who we can't, and for what reasons. But it is disappointing that wasn't taken into consideration today. So I will send that through, and we'll hopefully be able to have the discussion around a different policy framework.
Thank you, Councillor Goodluck. Any further question, councillors? I think that's the right way forward. I'm happy to consider personally as the mayor to look at another policy where we can support other community groups as well. But today is about what's in front of us. Councillor Hanson has a question before I put the motion.
No, happy to second. I think it's already been moved by Councillor Muscat.
And I think seconded by Councillor Brentwood.
Was it? Okay, sorry,
You're right.
Sorry, Councillor.
No worries. No further questions, comments or debate. I'll put the motion. All in favour? Motion is carried. Councillor Hanson, thank you. We move to the next item on the agenda, which is the minutes of the Audit Risk Improvement Committee meeting for the 16th of June 2021. And I'll hand back to you, Mark.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Attached for your consideration is the minutes from our Audit Risk and Improvement Committee from the 16th of June, which is our most recent meeting. You'll see that there was a presentation to that meeting from the Gladstone Airport Corporation with respect to their current performance and projected performance over the next 12 months, as well as consideration of a number of other issues and reports from across the organisation, and included the findings from the interim management letter from the Queensland Audit Office. So happy to take questions with respect to that report.
Thank you, Mark. Questions, comments, councillors? No? Can I have a mover for the motion, please? Thank you, Councillor Churchill. Seconded, Councillor O'Grady. No further comments, questions. I put the motion. All in favour? That motion is carried. Thank you. The next item on the agenda is... sorry, Rick, did you vote for that? Yes, thank you, Rick. G3.4, tender for 205-21 consultancy services for engineering. And I'll hand to the General Manager of Operations, John Tumbers. Thank you, John.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and good morning, councillors. Excuse me. And I welcome Christy Walkner, our Manager Contracts and Procurement, this morning to answer any questions. This report seeks resolution to enter into service provider agreements for the provision of engineering consultancy services under a register of pre-qualified suppliers. This has been a rather large piece of work and is, I suppose, integral into realising efficiencies in the way we go about our delivery of our works programs. The tender requested submissions across 14 engineering disciplines, and we did that as a matter of process rather than we went for the one tender process for all 14 disciplines as opposed to 14 separate tender submissions, so we could evaluate them all at once and compare them. The 14 disciplines go across civil, electrical and control, geology and geotechnical, mechanical, structural, water and sewage, environment and waste, architectural, drafting and modelling, town and regional planning, quantity surveying, traffic and transport, fire engineering and stormwater and flood management. Following the tender evaluations, there were 75 suitable companies to cover off on the 14 engineering disciplines, and they're all listed in the report. I suppose at this stage I'll open for questions.
Thank you, John. Questions, councillors? Very easy. Thank you. Can I have a
Very
mover then,
straightforward.
please? Thank you, Councillor Muscat. Second, Councillor O'Grady. Oh, sorry, Councillor Hanson. I beat you there on the screen there. Thank you. Move Councillor Muscat. Second, Councillor Hanson. I put the motion. All in favour? That is carried. Thank you, John. We'll move to the next item on the agenda, which is G3.5, the tender for 202-21 Consultancy Services Project Management. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Similarly, this report requests resolution to enter into service provider agreements for the provision of project management services under a register of pre-qualified suppliers. Contracted project management services are utilised to supplement internal project management resources in our works programs. Went to tender and received 29 conforming offers and are recommending entering into contract with 15 suitable providers, which are listed in the report. I'll open for questions.
Thank you. Very similar to the last item. Councillors, any questions? No? Can I have a mover then, please?
Pretty straightforward.
Thank you, Councillor Cameron. And seconded, Councillor Trevor. I'll put that motion. All in favour? That's carried. Thank you, John. Thank you,
Thanks,
Ricky. That was
councillors.
very easy. Thank you, Rick. All right, we'll move to the next item on the agenda. We have no deputations today. The next item on the agenda is councillor reports. And Councillor Churchill has a report on the Inland Rail Conference and might also mention our Relay for Life team. Thank you, Councillor Churchill.
Yeah, thanks for that, Mayor Matt. Appropriately, it would be, I think, extremely relevant at this circumstance through Madam CEO that we could also include our Economic Development Specialist, Gary Scanlon, in the presentation of this report, because it was a joint effort. And then the other part, perhaps from the elected members' perspective, Gary could also be here to answer any questions that might be pertinent to this report. I think it was absolutely paramount that we attend this National Inland Rail Conference at Albury, and I'll highlight some points here. I mean, appropriately, I would hope that the report is comprehensive enough, straightforward, and clearly articulated, so I acknowledge Gary's efforts in putting it together. But at the end of the day, it was also an opportunity for 400 rail industry and supply chain leaders, government operators, customers, ports, representatives and regional community leaders to attend the 2021 Inland Rail Conference, which was titled Connecting Regions and Building Australia. But I'd also like to say at this stage it was absolutely imperative that we do not relent on our business case advocacy, because attending this conference, along with the Mayor of Banana Shire, Councillor Nev Ferrier, who is also part of the CQ Inland Rail Advocacy group, we all need to be staunch advocates, because I think this is a shifting at this particular stage. When we got to the conference, appropriately acknowledging that I got this feeling that everywhere from Melbourne to the Queensland border was a fait accompli, and I did get the opportunity to drive through that corridor, and a lot of that work is well and truly underway. As we've indicated in the report here, the amount of jobs that's being created, and Gary could make reference to that. But I think over the term of the conference, even though we were challenged by some aspects of COVID with the 400 delegates towards the latter part, there was a general increase of interest in our document that we had been distributed, that we were distributing individually or targeted for them to get a greater understanding of how how this inland rail project, this is the #1 nation-building infrastructure project right now. The other part that was identified, and it's been outlined in this report, is that it was also identified the capital-to-capital freight didn't identify possible international land bridging cargo, which is probably the main value proposition of the inland rail extension coming to the Port of Gladstone. So I'll just take a couple of key points in here. That it was generally acknowledged that taking trains into Acacia Ridge in Brisbane and or the Port of Brisbane encountered congestion and added significant hours to the current transit time. They kept talking about 24 hours. Currently, they say Melbourne to Brisbane's 36 hours. They keep talking about this 24 hours. I would have thought from our perspective is that they would have also been starting to consider the budget, because the original budget, from my understanding, was somewhere about the $8 billion mark, and that's increased to $12 billion. And then prior to going to this conference, it was a $15 billion project. And then thus, when we heard one of the key presenters, it's now an $18 billion project. So each time we talk to someone from a budget perspective, it seems to be escalating even more and more. So I think we need to not only talk about the efficiency of the rail line coming to Gladstone, I think we also need to consider the cost effectiveness or the cost benefits that can come in relation to building this nation-building infrastructure. If I just also take another point here, was most of the discussions were quite positive without being directly supportive of our corridor coming up through the Surat Basin, through Wandoan and then on to Gladstone. But it was agreed and approved between the Queensland and Australian governments that there is an alignment for a proposed rail corridor from the Queensland border going into Brisbane. So I'll go back to my point there before. It's imperative that we do not relent on our business case advocacy, and I would perhaps, Mayor Matt, in your capacity, some of our learnings from this conference, and one or two key points to sum up before I invite perhaps through you, Mayor Matt, or Madam CEO, for Gary to make comment. I think it's important that what we took from the learnings of this conference is that we were able to extrapolate those and put them into the Senate inquiry submission. That we would hope at the end of the day that Senate inquiry that was held here in Gladstone will now go away and review the decision, because getting to the Queensland border is already a done deal. It's where it goes after that, probably the Toowoomba terminal. So without going on any further, there are key points in this report. It's almost, without exception, the stakeholders engaged knew of and acknowledged our advocacy efforts. They're interested to discuss our proposal, and some have been following up since the conference, and understand more about the proposed extension to the Port of Gladstone, the port city to the world. And it's interesting because they're not openly supporting or endorsing our proposed extension project, but they're all wanting to know that there is some happenings with that, and how can we continue to gain that momentum. In particular, any possible political change in terms of a change to the current project model or the private sector investment in an altered alignment to Gladstone. I make on public record here today is that we know of some in the past who were actually opposed to the rail corridor coming to Gladstone. But I've read in recent reports, and we see some comments that are being made in media, that there's now a shifting of that, I suppose, political thinking or their political will or the alignment in understanding, well, they need to go and reconsider the benefits that will come, not only the cost benefits to the taxpayer, but the benefits that can come in relation to that altered alignment in through that corridor and onto Gladstone. So in summing up, I suppose Council must continue to use every opportunity to support the ongoing advocacy program, which I've already endorsed. And the last part of it is appropriately going back to our original motion, a motion that I moved, was that at some stage the Inland Rail Forum, Inland Rail Summit to be held in Gladstone. I think that it's absolutely vital now that as part of our advocacy and our attendance from this Inland Rail Conference, that we now contribute to a persuasive and strong submission to align that with our Inland Rail Summit for whenever that may appropriately be organised, coordinated and delivered to put up our case over and above that. So without further ado, perhaps with your permission, if it would be possible for our economic development specialist, because I think it's absolutely paramount now that the information was put into the Senate inquiry. It's what we do with it now, other than just the resolution that appears before my colleagues today that we receive the report. Thank you, Mayor Matt.
Councillor Churchill, over to you, Gary Scanlon, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Churchill. Good morning, councillors. Just to reinforce what Councillor Churchill has said, I think it was interesting that during the whole conference we had some fairly forthright discussions with some fairly embedded stakeholders in the Inland Rail. Everyone from Inland Rail themselves through to the National Freight and Supply Chain Strategy Chair, who was fairly forthright. The heartening thing for me was nobody attacked our business case. There was no attack on the business case. There was no challenge to the business case. It was almost like it was accepted, if you like, on the business case. The thing that's interesting in the change in the whole dynamic with the Inland Rail is a lot of the major stakeholders in Queensland are not talking about connections to the Port of Brisbane. They're talking about connections to satellite intermodal facilities, satellite intermodal facilities around Toowoomba or on the outskirts of Brisbane, rather than going right through Brisbane, which is a really interesting change in the dynamic with the Inland Rail, which augurs well for our arguments to bring it to a port connection in the Port of Gladstone. The other thing that I'd like to highlight was as Councillor Churchill said, there was a lot of discussion about the economic benefit for Inland Rail, and certainly there's no doubt that just the pure construction and operation of the Inland Rail, if we bring it to the Port of Gladstone, will have a huge economic and political, socio-economic benefit to the region as well. There's, in terms of our ongoing advocacy, we still have the CQ Inland Rail Advocacy Group together. We're looking at maybe doing a little bit more work in the economic benefit space to support our advocacy work as well, and maybe doing point-to-point supply chain analysis to prove the economic benefit of the land bridge and cargo, as Councillor Churchill spoke about. We're also, as Councillor Churchill indicated, looking at how we might run this forum to highlight the Port of Gladstone connection. We're talking to a few organisations about that at the moment. As you would appreciate, running a forum in this current COVID environment is highly risk. It's a high risk environment, but we'll press forward with that. Some of the early thinking is that we won't have the ubiquitous 2 days and dinner in Gladstone, that we might even have a mobile forum that follows the corridor from Gladstone to Goondiwindi or Gladstone, Goondiwindi, Toowoomba. So something along those lines. So that's some of the thinking at the moment. Lots of private interest is still in the extension to Gladstone, and we'll continue to cultivate that private interest. And certainly there seems to be some bipartisan support with the new Deputy Prime Minister stating outright recently that he's a supporter of the Inland Rail extension to Gladstone, which is heartening for our cause. So happy to answer any questions.
So, Mayor Matt, perhaps you might be able to make some inference, because the findings that we got from this conference went into the Senate inquiry, which you appeared before that Senate inquiry, so I just felt that it might be timely and or appropriate connecting it from here. But I believe we're in a stronger position. I believe that we need to continue and maintain the rage, or maintain the momentum. And in the words of Johnny Cash, I hear a trainer coming.
Thank you, Councillor Churchill. Obviously, yes, I did present to the Senate inquiry twice, actually. First time via teleconference, and the most recent time at the in Gundoon Street at the function room at the Grand Hotel in Gladstone with Nev Ferrier, the Mayor of Banana Shire, also the Chair of the CQ Rock, Tony Gambling from Regional Development Australia, and John Abbott, who helped put together our economic analysis, basically, with the AEC company. So our AEC business case, I'm glad to hear no one's pulling it to pieces, because we could easily pull the previous one to pieces because it was completely flawed and based on ridiculous assumptions. 50% of the cost of the project for 10% of the distance is what we're talking.
Sounds like you just completely pulled it apart, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, well, theirs is ridiculous. Theirs are absolutely ridiculous, but ours is not. It's based on facts, and theirs is based on assumptions which were completely outrageous. It's interesting that, you know, it's inland rail project, because it is never going to get, if you talk about Brisbane and Toowoomba or Acacia Ridge is 38 kilometres, according to Google, to the Port of Brisbane. So that's not getting to a port. That's getting to, whether it's an intermodal hub inland from the port. If you want to get to a port, you have to come to Gladstone, because they've got no inclusions of any of their $8 billion, $12 billion, $15 billion costings to get it to a port. And the Port of Brisbane's privately owned, the Port of Gladstone's publicly owned. The people in Brisbane are opposing the project. The residents in Central Queensland support the project. I just don't understand. And it'd be good to hear more from Deputy Prime Minister and everybody in Canberra to say, you know what, this makes more sense. You've got the economic analysis. Let's build the thing to Gladstone. Well, Brisbane tries to work out how to get down a range in Toowoomba. They build a new range. Obviously, also the costings, and this initial analysis of the report was done before they built a duplication of a range to Toowoomba. Now the trucking movements between Toowoomba and Brisbane are much, much easier. I just don't understand why people are not considering Central Queensland as the place to bring this. It's good to hear some people changing their mind, and that is good news. And let's hopefully we can get some actual real announcements and commitments towards this inland rail. But yeah, Acacia Ridge is congested, and certainly the residents around that area and in the proposed corridor to Acacia Ridge are absolutely opposing it. They've started an action group. That's how much they don't want the project. Whereas here, the action group would be to make it happen. So thank you, Councillor Councillor Churchill, for attending that, and thank you, Gary, for your report as well.
Can I just make a final comment in relation to what you've just raised? The congestion issue is that, and there is that action group down there. I think if they're going to rally themselves together to be totally opposed to it, I think they all need to be on the same page, or at least they need to get. I'm not telling the local governments down in their area, in that area, how to do their work, but I think they need to align their decision making and or get some resolutions of their local governments on behalf of their community. And the latest information is that, and this was quite evident at the conference, is that passenger trains and freight trains do not mix. And when you see and hear about that congestion in Brisbane, and the other part of it is that from what we understand is that some of those boomgate rail, passenger rail ones in the inner city of Brisbane and or around Ipswich, they're going to be closing every 15 to 20 minutes with the amount of freight lines that'll be coming, 80 a day from what we understand. Any questions?
And I have one. Your motion is just that we receive the report. Did you want to add an item in there that says we bid for the next year's conference? Is that what you were alluding to?
Well, no, not necessarily. I think there's already a resolution of this council that we hold an inland rail summit in conjunction with the CQ Rock. So Central Queensland working together. So I think that's already a resolution on the books. And I think what Gary's raised, a mobile, in light of what's happening with the whole COVID aspect, maybe the mobile forum is probably a great example along that corridor from Gladstone to Toowoomba.
Okay, thanks. So you're happy with your resolution as it stands, the recommendation? Thank you. Councillor Trevor and then Councillor Muscat.
Thanks, Mayor. I feel after that report, Councillor Churchill, that I should put my Johnny Cash hat on to talk about this. But thank you both for attending on our behalf to what was otherwise an extremely important conference for the future economic development of this region. Personally, I think the project will happen for all sorts of reasons, including but not limited to the political sphere in which we currently engage, in that both parties have now committed or at least suggested that the inland rail should proceed to the Port of Gladstone, which is great news from an economic point of view. If both parties continue that commitment in all sincerity. I understand the economic benefits that the project will create, because I've represented that southern area in a different role, just as you have, Councillor Churchill, as former mayor of the Banana Shire Council. The project is massive. The economic benefits are massive. The nation-building project is massive. I just hope, in the madness and mayhem and chaos that is associated with such a major infrastructure project, that we not forget the social consequences that this project will bring, not only to the Gladstone region, but also to our southern counterparts, including the North Burnett and also the Lower Surat, which has untapped resources, including the recent federal approval of the Nathan Dam. So please let us not forget the social consequences. We've been there, done that before, and I would hate to see the city in which I grew up in be faced with those consequences ever again. That will haunt me till the day I die. But the other considerations, obviously, are significant noise impact, significant dust impact, significant social consequences, and please, in the madness and mayhem, don't forget the people that will be most impacted by this project. As I say, I believe it will happen. It won't happen by the time I leave this chamber, but I'm very confident that it will happen. And I congratulate everyone's support for what is otherwise going to be a huge economic boost for this region and for its people and for Queensland and the nation generally.
Thank you, Councillor Trevor. Councillor Muscat. Okay, no worries, Councillor Goodluck.
Thanks, Mr Mayor, and thanks, Councillor Churchill. Great report, and thanks for representing us down there. And it's just, I just wanted to focus on one point in particular. We talk about a nation-building project. We talk about the future for Australia as a nation. The freight task, the amount of freight that this country will have to contend with over the next 10, 20, 30 years is forecast to increase exponentially, as you've rightly pointed out in your report. Brisbane is landlocked. Gladstone has massive potential for growth and expansion, and really is the only option, as far as a suitable option for the future of the nation, to be able to handle the freight that this country will need to be able to handle and distribute. And so it really is the only option that we have if we really want to make the best decision for taxpayers, for this nation, and for the growth that our country is going to go through in the future. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Councillor Goodluck. Any further questions? No? I'm going to assume that it's going to be moved by yourself, Councillor Churchill. Is it your recommendation? Okay. Someone like to move? Thank you, Councillor Brentwood. Secondly, Councillor Goodluck. I agree with all comments made, and one thing I will add to what you said, Councillor Goodluck, I think we have the most expandable port in the Southern Hemisphere. So you want to talk about nation-building project, you won't get better than the inland rail project at the Port of Gladstone. I'll put the motion. All in favour? Motion is carried unanimously. Thank you, councillors. We'll move to the...
Thanks,
Is there any
Karen.
other councillor reports? Further, councillor? Councillor
Mayor,
Hanson.
just before we go on to the next item, just wanted to mention the Baffle Creek Car and Bike Muster, which is happening this week on Sunday, the 25th, from 9 till 2:30. It's at 1086 Coast Road, which is about 5 kilometres down ground there, and the best of luck to them.
Thank you, Councillor Hanson. I did have that in my diary, but it was cancelled, so I'm good to see it's back on. Thank you. Councillor Brentwood.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Yesterday, I just wanted to sort of bring people up to date with what's happening with the IQ RAP group, which is the Inland Queensland Road Action Project. It's been in operation since 2013, I believe, and at the moment it's a group of councils. It used to be 27 councils, now it's down to about, well, it was 22 last year, now it's down to about 18 this year. Collectively, obviously helping with transport corridors across the Queensland and getting, obviously upgrading our roads and bridges and so forth to allow road trains access directly into, well, at the present point in time, directly into the Port of Townsville. What we're trying to do is to increase that capacity across Queensland by having some of those road trains, especially in the southern sector and the central Queensland area, to be able to access the Port of Gladstone. At the point at the moment, they're on a crossroads with, especially when the financial things are concerned, because some of these I suppose, surveys and consultancies that they get in to provide the figures they're required to generate the lobbying. And I don't think there's any, and its talk was yesterday, don't think there's any other group, lobby group across the whole of Queensland that's generated so much action over the past 7 or 8 years as far as road transport goes across Queensland. So it's really important that we probably are part of this group, but we're going to be doing a presentation at the Bush Council meeting in Barcaldine the first week in August. So I just wanted to bring everybody up to date with that, and they've actually invited me to speak, believe it or not. So it'll be interesting. Yeah. So I think Gladstone, as we've pointed out with the rail corridor, we've also got an inland port close by, which is going to be at in Emerald, and it's vitally important that all of this happens because it really generates so much coming to Gladstone, not only from an import point of view, but also an export point of view. We've also realised that getting Type 2 road trains directly into Gladstone here, obviously there's a lot of work to do on where that transport corridor will go, but it is immediate saving to the primary producer of around $30 million annually just in transport costs, and that helps them with being competitive across the world stage with grain and that. We export wheat, sorghum and chickpea from here, but there's also a lot of other products that will be coming in from central Queensland as well. So I think it's vitally important that we keep on supporting these things because it's for Gladstone's future and obviously the future growth capacity across the whole of Queensland. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brentwood. Councillor O'Grady.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I just want to congratulate the Ambrose State School Family Fun Day. It was just, we went up there and I got there about lunchtime, but it was just great to see everybody there and all the community getting together and you know, doing what they do best is communicating with the community, I suppose. But yeah, it was great to see people from the Gladstone region as well. I saw up there, or Gladstone itself, I mean, yeah, and people from Calliope going up there. So yes, I'd like to just congratulate the PNC up there for running such a great event, and I think you G'd it up a little bit in the morning when you were up there nice and early, so that was great. And like you said, the BMX was just incredible, the amount of participants there, so it was a busy weekend in the region.
Thank you, Councillor O'Grady. It was good. I was there about 7 a.m. in the morning in Ambrose and got out there and tried to get everybody turned up, and it was a great event. Good on them. Councillor, good luck.
Thanks, Mr Mayor, and I'd just like to follow on from your comments about the Luminous event. It was a fantastic event. My kids thoroughly enjoyed it, and every bit of feedback that I had from every person I knew that attended the event thought it was absolutely outstanding. It's something different. You don't get to see that sort of thing, particularly the waterworks at the lake, which was outstanding. The parking, I'm not sure, maybe next year we might be able to look at some shuttle buses or something just to try and reduce some of that congestion. But all in all, it was just a fantastic event. I hear they had some really great live entertainment there as well. No, it's a real credit to the whole team, and I'm looking forward to seeing the numbers from this year's event, and also just seeing what that event will turn into in the next 3, 4, 5 years, I'm sure it's just going to continue to grow and be absolutely outstanding. So thank you.
No, we have some approximate numbers, but it was certainly exceeded the previous 2019. We did put buses on originally and they weren't very well utilised, but obviously now I think buses would be something we'd certainly need to consider for 2022, and I know Kylie's got that on her radar. Can I just thank you, Rick, for pointing out about the Baffle Creek car and bike muster? I did have it in my diary for the 17th, the weekend just gone. It was cancelled, but you're right, it is on this Sunday, the 25th, from 9 to 2:30, so thank you for raising that. It'll be a good day in Baffle Creek, 9 a.m. to 2:30. Any further councillor reports? Councillor Churchill.
Yeah, thanks, Mayor Matt. Just wanted to make reference to our registration of our team for the Relay for Life for this Saturday, 24th of July, midday to 9 p.m. at the Chanel College main oval, so to acknowledge the coordinators and also all those teams that have registered. It's still not too late to join the council team at this stage. We're still looking for some more members of our Gladstone region champions for the cause. But in light of saying that, also to acknowledge the many other teams that have registered, those that perhaps can't participate or would like to, their support no matter what. And I know for a fact that many of us have or know of someone that's been severely affected by this sickening disease of cancer. And I have my own personal stories, as I'm sure you have, of close family and friends. But this is also about an opportunity, and there will be great entertainment there as well, with the Gladstone Thistlepipe Band playing Mulligan Tyre and Amazing Grace. But it's a candlelight vigil at 6 o'clock. There will also be a remembrance ceremony. And John Cunningham, as many, if not all of us know, John Cunningham is the face of the Relay for Life for Gladstone this year, because he is a survivor. So we also need to understand and consider the importance of those who have survived this sickening disease. So anything and everything we can to do to stamp it out has to be a positive. And I thank those that have already registered for our team. I thank those who have already sponsored for our team. But the fight is continual, and we need... It's interesting, you know, how rapidly we were able to come up with some solution or some cure for the COVID requirements quite rapidly, you know, with everything that goes on out there in that big COVID world at the moment. But we still need to do everything to find the cure for cancer. So I suppose just in wrapping up, it's good you're going, Mayor Matt, and councillors and some other leaders have already flagged their intention to join our team, but really at the end of the day, each and every one of us have a role to play to honour, remember and love those that have survived, and think about and pray for those that have been lost to cancer. But thanks for that, Mayor Matt. That's this Saturday. You still got a chance to register. Go online and look for the Gladstone Region Champions.
Is it the Gladstone Region
cause.
Champions, is it?
Gladstone Region
Oh,
Champions.
registered for the
cause.
Champions.
Oh, you've gone on the other team.
No. Well,
Oh, well, we are the champions.
Thank you, councillors.
sorry, I'm registered as a champion.
But there,
so-
thanks,
Register
man,
at 2 teams, but thank you, councillors. Any further councillor reports? No, thank you. Well, there's no urgent business, but we do have a notice of motion, and it's the last item on the open agenda for today, so I'll go to that before we close for morning break for morning tea, then we'll do the confidential items. So our notice of motion is G7.1, supporting the Uluru Statement from the Heart, and I'll throw to you, Councillor Muscat.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is, well, I could just read what I have in here, but I'm sure everybody has read it. If you want me to, I'm happy to read it for people to know. So, first of all, I'd like to acknowledge the leadership that of this council, led by you, Mayor Matt Burnett, in the establishment of the first Gladstone Regional Council Reconciliation Action Plan back in 2018. Council being one of the first councils in Queensland to do so, so I know that we are very proud to have done that. This great achievement was not the first. It did follow another milestone in our region, which saw the flying of the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander flag outside our chambers in 2016. So we had recently attended, just to summarise what's in here. So this, in June this would have been last month, in June 2021, we attended the ALGA National Assembly, in which all councils present unanimously voted to support the Uluru Statement from the Heart. This was also followed by the LGAQ annual conference in 2019, which called to write to the ALGA organisation affirming the support of Queensland councils to the values of the Uluru Statement from the Heart. So I see this as a normal progression from what we already started back in 2016 and probably before that, but my knowledge doesn't, in this area, doesn't go as far back. But I'm just really proud to be presenting this here so we can actually be another voice to advocate to support the Uluru Statement from the Heart.
Thank you, Councillor Muscat. And I've just realised, I've obviously support this, and I just realised in point 4, you are writing to federal candidates in the
Yep.
Flynn, which is now going to give me a conflict of interest.
Sorry, well, these are also suggestions. We can also change it or add things to it, but yeah, I didn't realise it would have been a conflict of interest, but...
And I never thought for a million years could I get a conflict of interest in this issue either. Brooke, please.
Sorry.
Yes, Mayor, you are correct that if the current proposed recommendation stands as it is with point 4, you will have a conflict of interest as you are the nominated candidate for Labor in the next Flynn election, so you would have to declare that and remove yourself.
Do I declare a conflict because that's what the recommendation is, or I don't need to because that's not what the item on the agenda is? The item on the agenda is supporting the Uluru Statement of the Heart.
So the current report in the agenda has that item on there. Unless Councillor Muscat removes that now, you would need to declare that.
Okay. Man. I'm going to declare conflict of interest in item 4.
It's not a prescribed conflict though, is it?
No, but I don't want, the last thing I want, and here it is now live stream, is for our council to be getting politically involved. I can do my duty as the mayor, and in my spare time, until an election is called, I will be able to manage my role as the candidate for Flynn. I don't want that to conflict here, so I would rather either that item be removed or I will leave the chamber. Thank you.
I agree with Councillor Khan, but at the end of the day, if you've got a doubt in your mind, and I'll say it again, if in doubt, get out.
Well, you're talking about this council writing to federal candidates, which includes me. Councillor Trevor.
I have a question for Brooke. Brooke, if we were to, or if the proponent who is advocating this notice of motion was to amend item 4 by deleting the words "and local known candidates in the next federal election for the Flynn electorate," would that assist the mayor in remaining in situ? Given that it's only writing to the current Prime Minister and the federal leader of the opposition, with the exclusion of local candidates for the Flynn electorate. I see that as a potential solution to the problem, given that the Mayor has been a massive advocate in this area, but I defer to your legal advice in relation to the matter.
Firstly, this isn't legal advice. This is my professional opinion. I'm not a lawyer. The conflict that I believe that exists within the current recommendation is those words around writing to local known candidates in the upcoming federal election. This is asking the council to undertake these actions. I don't believe the mayor could sit and vote on this matter if that remained in that point 4, given it would be writing to himself.
It's okay. I feel uncomfortable now. I'm going to declare a conflict and leave the room. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'm sorry, that wasn't my intention. It was, obviously, I do know that the mayor strongly supports this, but I didn't want to suggest that we write to one candidate but not another. So yes, is there any questions or any other information anyone would like from me?
Sorry, can I I'm just wondering, like, I've got no doubt that everybody supports this, but at the end of the day, it's already been put through with ALGA and put through with all the other ones, and here we are going individually out and saying something instead of as a group. I'm just wondering whether we're actually duplicating something or putting ourselves in a position where we're singling ourselves out, not in the wrong reasons, but in saying that it's already been done on 2 other platforms as well.
Yeah, I understand that. We're not the only council that has undertaken this exercise. I believe that advocacy is about doing this in as many places as possible. We also coming up to an election where we can have, stronger, I guess, show a stronger position around the Uluru Statement from the Heart, which it's quite central to the future of, well, as I see our nation growing in our relationship with First Nations people. So the same way as we have done things in the past, I think this is a natural progression to continue to say and stand for what we believe is best for us and for our First Nations people.
So what about this? Does this actually come from the Gladstone Region Council reconciliation plan, or does it come from yourself?
The Reconciliation Action Plan Advisory Group, which I co-chair, they're not entitled to actually put notices of motion, so I'm only allowed to do that as a councillor, but I have consulted with them and I have been given their support. So yeah, thank you for that question, because I did make sure that I asked them and that they were happy with that. Okay. And they're actually very excited and hopefully watching.
Thank you, Councillor.
Councillor O'Grady.
Thank you, Councillor Khan. Councillor Muscat, I was just wondering, have you consulted at all with our Indigenous leaders or PCCC or within any of our local Indigenous people with this?
I haven't formally consulted with the PCCC. I have spoken to a couple of leaders. I can give you their names, but yes, I have. And it's also, I guess, a national approach to the future of the way in which we interact with and give voice to our First Nations people. So I don't see that there was any impediments or any issues for us to do that. So it is a national approach from a number of, it's also part of the discussion for the next federal election.
Before I go to Councillor Trevor, the Mayor and I had that discussion this morning, and I know he did speak with a representative of the PCCC, and they were fully supportive of it. Just to give clarity, I'm not sure who exactly he spoke to, but he did confirm that with me before the meeting this morning. Councillor Trevor.
Thanks, Deputy Mayor. My position in relation to this notice of motion is such that if the PCCC are in support of it, and I accept, which I do, the ongoing advocacy from the Gladstone Regional Council in relation to the Uluru Statement, then I'm happy to second the notice of motion.
Thank you, Councillor Trevor. We also see it as a great opportunity for us to incorporate this to the activities that we have in the Reconciliation Action Plan that we just endorsed for the next 24 months. So it does fit really nicely with some of the plans that we have in relation to further education displays around our offices and continuing the program that we recently just started for RAP, the Reconciliation Action Plan Champions around the business. So it's quite exciting, and hopefully we can see more of that happening around our organisation to be a model and something that people can look up. And yeah, I guess you do, you know, you always, you don't, people don't do what you say, but people do what you do. So that's what I think we're doing right now. So leading the way in that, in issues of First Nations people, to provide them with what they've been asking for so long, which is for us to recognise the Uluru Statement from the Heart in this instance. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor Muscat, as the chair of our RAP group, for bringing this forward. I do think I fully acknowledge that the LGAQ, ALGA, and I was present at both of those meetings in recent years when it was fully supported by all councils effectively across the nation, and on both occasions, to my recollection, due to standing ovation, which shows the full support. I'd just like to say, for anyone who is listening that hasn't read the Uluru Statement from the Heart, you can jump on. I think the link is in the Gladstone Regional Council report there from Councillor Muscat, or you can jump online and find it. It is very short, concise, but quite a powerful statement. And just to read the last paragraph there, in 1967 we were counted. In 2017 we seek to be heard. We leave base camp and start our trek across this vast country. We invite you to walk with us in a movement of the Australian people for a better future. And I'm happy to support the motion today from the Gladstone Regional Council, not as nine white Australians sitting around the table speaking on behalf of our First Nations Australians, but in aim to walk with them and support and advocate them in any way that we can. And I know Mayor Matt, in his absence, would absolutely be supportive of that as well. Is there any other comments or questions, councillors? No? So, Councillor Muscat, you're moving.
Yes, thank you.
And Councillor Trevor, second. I'll put the motion. Declare it carried. We might get Mayor Matt back. Thanks, Brooke.
Thank you, Councillor Goodluck. There actually is no further items on the open agenda. So what we might do is move into confidential, and then we can wrap the meeting up for the day.
So move, Mayor Matt.
Move Councillor Churchill, seconded Councillor Goodluck. We have the reason, that's right, thank you. We're moving into confidential in accordance with the Local Government Act, Local Government Regulation 2012, Section 254J, in brackets D, rating concessions. It is proposed to close the meeting to discuss a confidential item, G 8.1, out of policy Waterley concession request on that lot in Agnes Water 1770. This item will discuss and consider the request for a water consumption rating concession, and will include presenting the facts and circumstances on the history of the water consumption and interactions with the owner of that lot, which Councillor O'Grady has declared a conflict in, and she's leaving the room. So I'll now move into confidential. Councillor Churchill moves, seconded Councillor Goodluck. All in favour? That motion is carried. Thank you, Rick, and we'll close the meeting. We'll be back shortly.
Sign up to Council's disaster and weather event warning system. Receive alerts about emergency news, severe weather events and other public safety alerts via SMS or email. Registering to the disaster messaging system is free. To register, visit Gladstone Regional Council's Region Watch website and click on the Register for Warnings button. Get ready, Gladstone. Take the steps to protect what's most important to you. Let's be better prepared and protected for emergencies and disasters.
Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify.
Illegal dumping and littering is a concern across the Gladstone region, with over 134 offences in the last 18 months. Our region is beautiful, but there are a few bad apples that ruin it for the rest of us, and they need to clean up their act.
Commonly found items at illegal dumping sites across the region include car bodies and batteries, mattresses, tyres, white goods and furniture, and green waste. These items can be disposed of at any of the region's waste transfer stations, some of them even for free.
Illegal dumping and littering pollutes our environment, harms plants and animals, and detracts from the enjoyment of our public spaces. It can lead to stormwater and ocean pollution, with large amounts of plastic, sugar sachets, and cigarette butts caught in stormwater traps and grates.
It's cheaper for everyone to dispose of waste correctly. Illegal dumping and littering cost our ratepayers thousands of dollars each year in waste management and clean-up. It's also costly for our dumper, with penalties of up to $10,000.
We can all work together to keep our region beautiful and dispose of waste responsibly by placing rubbish in the bins, or even holding onto the rubbish until you're near a suitable bin, and using our local waste facilities. Don't be part of the problem of pollution. We want you to be a part of the solution.
From towns to the bush, illegal dumping and littering is everybody's responsibility. Protect our public spaces and natural environment by doing the right thing for today and tomorrow.
If you see illegal dumping,
Dob in a dumper.
See it,
report it, stop it.
Sign up to Council's disaster and weather event warning system. Receive alerts about emergency news, severe weather events and other public safety alerts via SMS or email. Registering to the disaster messaging system is free. To register, visit Gladstone Regional Council's Region Watch website and click on the Register for Warnings button. Get ready, Gladstone. Take the steps to protect what's most important to you. Let's be better prepared and protected for emergencies and disasters.
Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify.
Illegal dumping and littering is a concern across the Gladstone region, with over 134 offences in the last 18 months. Our region is beautiful, but there are a few bad apples that ruin it for the rest of us, and they need to clean up their act.
Commonly found items at illegal dumping sites across the region include car bodies and batteries, mattresses, tyres, white goods and furniture, and green waste. These items can be disposed of at any of the region's waste transfer stations, some of them even for free.
Illegal dumping and littering pollutes our environment, harms plants and animals, and detracts from the enjoyment of our public spaces. It can lead to stormwater and ocean pollution, with large amounts of plastic, sugar sachets, and cigarette butts caught in stormwater traps and grates.
It's cheaper for everyone to dispose of waste correctly. Illegal dumping and littering cost our ratepayers thousands of dollars each year in waste management and clean-up. It's also costly for our dumper, with penalties of up to $10,000.
We can all work together to keep our region beautiful and dispose of waste responsibly by placing rubbish in the bins, or even holding onto the rubbish until you're near a suitable bin, and using our local waste facilities. Don't be part of the problem of pollution. We want you to be a part of the solution.
From towns to the bush, illegal dumping and littering is everybody's responsibility. Protect our public spaces and natural environment by doing the right thing for today and tomorrow.
If you see illegal dumping,
Dob in a dumper.
See it,
report it, stop it.
Sign Sign up to Council's disaster and weather event warning system. Receive alerts about emergency news, severe weather events and other public safety alerts via SMS or email. Registering to the disaster messaging system is free. To register, visit Gladstone Regional Council's Region Watch website and click on the Register for Warnings button. Get ready, Gladstone. Take the steps to protect what's most important to you. Let's be better prepared and protected for emergencies and disasters.
Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify.
Illegal dumping and littering is a concern across the Gladstone region, with over 134 offences in the last 18 months. Our region is beautiful, but there are a few bad apples that ruin it for the rest of us, and they need to clean up their act.
Commonly found items at illegal dumping sites across the region include car bodies and batteries, mattresses, tyres, white goods and furniture, and green waste. These items can be disposed of at any of the region's waste transfer stations, some of them even for free.
Illegal dumping and littering pollutes our environment, harms plants and animals, and detracts from the enjoyment of our public spaces. It can lead to stormwater and ocean pollution, with large amounts of plastic, sugar sachets, and cigarette butts caught in stormwater traps and grates.
It's cheaper for everyone to dispose of waste correctly. Illegal dumping and littering cost our ratepayers thousands of dollars each year in waste management and clean-up. It's also costly for our dumper, with penalties of up to $10,000.
We can all work together to keep our region beautiful and dispose of waste responsibly by placing rubbish in the bins, or even holding onto the rubbish until you're near a suitable bin, and using our local waste facilities. Don't be part of the problem of pollution. We want you to be a part of the solution.
From towns to the bush, illegal dumping and littering is everybody's responsibility. Protect our public spaces and natural environment by doing the right thing for today and tomorrow.
If you see illegal dumping,
Dob in a dumper.
See it, report it, stop it.
Sign up to Council's disaster and weather event warning system. Receive alerts about emergency news, severe weather events and other public safety alerts via SMS or email. Registering to the disaster messaging system is free. To register, visit Gladstone Regional Council's Region Watch website and click on the Register for Warnings button. Get ready, Gladstone. Take the steps to protect what's most important to you. Let's be better prepared and protected for emergencies and disasters.
Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify.
Illegal dumping and littering is a concern across the Gladstone region, with over 134 offences in the last 18 months. Our region is beautiful, but there are a few bad apples that ruin it for the rest of us, and they need to clean up their act.
Commonly found items at illegal dumping sites across the region include car bodies and batteries, mattresses, tyres, white goods and furniture, and green waste. These items can be disposed of at any of the region's waste transfer stations, some of them even for free.
Illegal dumping and littering pollutes our environment, harms plants and animals, and detracts from the enjoyment of our public spaces. It can lead to stormwater and ocean pollution, with large amounts of plastic, sugar sachets, and cigarette butts caught in stormwater traps and grates.
It's cheaper for everyone to dispose of waste correctly. Illegal dumping and littering cost our ratepayers thousands of dollars each year in waste management and clean-up. It's also costly for our dumper, with penalties of up to $10,000.
We can all work together to keep our region beautiful and dispose of waste responsibly by placing rubbish in the bins, or even holding onto the rubbish until you're near a suitable bin, and using our local waste facilities. Don't be part of the problem of pollution. We want you to be a part of the solution.
From towns to the bush, illegal dumping and littering is everybody's responsibility. Protect our public spaces and natural environment by doing the right thing for today and tomorrow.
If you see illegal dumping,
Dob in a dumper.
see it, report it, stop it.
Sign up to Council's disaster and weather event warning system. Receive alerts about emergency news, severe weather events and other public safety alerts via SMS or email. Registering to the disaster messaging system is free. To register, visit Gladstone Regional Council's Region Watch website and click on the Register for Warnings button. Get ready, Gladstone. Take the steps to protect what's most important to you. Let's be better prepared and protected for emergencies and disasters.
Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify.
Illegal dumping and littering is a concern across the Gladstone region, with over 134 offences in the last 18 months. Our region is beautiful, but there are a few bad apples that ruin it for the rest of us, and they need to clean up their act.
Commonly found items at illegal dumping sites across the region include car bodies and batteries, mattresses, tyres, white goods and furniture, and green waste. These items can be disposed of at any of the region's waste transfer stations, some of them even for free.
Illegal dumping and littering pollutes our environment, harms plants and animals, and detracts from the enjoyment of our public spaces. It can lead to stormwater and ocean pollution, with large amounts of plastic, sugar sachets, and cigarette butts caught in stormwater traps and grates.
It's cheaper for everyone to dispose of waste correctly. Illegal dumping and littering costs our ratepayers thousands of dollars each year in waste management and clean-up. It's also costly for our dumper, with penalties of up to $10,000.
We can all work together to keep our region beautiful and dispose of waste responsibly by placing rubbish in the bins, or even holding onto the rubbish until you're near a suitable bin, and using our local waste facilities. Don't be part of the problem of pollution. We want you to be a part of the solution.
From towns to the bush, illegal dumping and littering is everybody's responsibility. Protect our public spaces and natural environment by doing the right thing for today and tomorrow.
If you see illegal dumping,
Dob in a dumper.
See it,
report it,
stop it.
Sign up to Council's disaster and weather event warning system. Receive alerts about emergency news, severe weather events and other public safety alerts via SMS or email. Registering to the disaster messaging system is free. To register, visit Gladstone Regional Council's Region Watch website and click on the Register for Warnings button. Get ready, Gladstone. Take the steps to protect what's most important to you. Let's be better prepared and protected for emergencies and disasters.
Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify.
Illegal dumping and littering is a concern across the Gladstone region, with over 134 offences in the last 18 months. Our region is beautiful, but there are a few bad apples that ruin it for the rest of us, and they need to clean up their act.
Commonly found items at illegal dumping sites across the region include car bodies and batteries, mattresses, tyres, white goods and furniture, and green waste. These items can be disposed of at any of the region's waste transfer stations, some of them even for free.
Illegal dumping and littering pollutes our environment, harms plants and animals, and detracts from the enjoyment of our public spaces. It can lead to stormwater and ocean pollution, with large amounts of plastic, sugar sachets, and cigarette butts caught in stormwater traps and grates.
It's cheaper for everyone to dispose of waste correctly. Illegal dumping and littering costs our ratepayers thousands of dollars each year in waste management and clean-up. It's also costly for our dumper, with penalties of up to $10,000.
We can all work together to keep our region beautiful and dispose of waste responsibly by placing rubbish in the bins, or even holding onto the rubbish until you're near a suitable bin, and using our local waste facilities. Don't be part of the problem of pollution. We want you to be a part of the solution.
From towns to the bush, illegal dumping and littering is everybody's responsibility. Protect our public spaces and natural environment by doing the right thing for today and tomorrow.
If you see illegal dumping,
Dob in a dumper.
See it,
report it,
stop it.
Sign up to Council's disaster and weather event warning system. Receive alerts about emergency news, severe weather events and other public safety alerts via SMS or email. Registering to the disaster messaging system is free. To register, visit Gladstone Regional Council's Region Watch website and click on the Register for Warnings button. Get ready, Gladstone. Take the steps to protect what's most important to you. Let's be better prepared and protected for emergencies and disasters.
Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify.
Illegal dumping and littering is a concern across the Gladstone region, with over 134 offences in the last 18 months. Our region is beautiful, but there are a few bad apples that ruin it for the rest of us, and they need to clean up their act.
Commonly found items at illegal dumping sites across the region include car bodies and batteries, mattresses, tyres, white goods and furniture, and green waste. These items can be disposed of at any of the region's waste transfer stations, some of them even for free.
Illegal dumping and littering pollutes our environment, harms plants and animals, and detracts from the enjoyment of our public spaces. It can lead to stormwater and ocean pollution, with large amounts of plastic, sugar sachets, and cigarette butts caught in stormwater traps and grates.
It's cheaper for everyone to dispose of waste correctly. Illegal dumping and littering cost our ratepayers thousands of dollars each year in waste management and clean-up. It's also costly for our dumper, with penalties of up to $10,000.
We can all work together to keep our region beautiful and dispose of waste responsibly by placing rubbish in the bins, or even holding onto the rubbish until you're near a suitable bin, and using our local waste facilities. Don't be part of the problem of pollution. We want you to be a part of the solution.
From towns to the bush, illegal dumping and littering is everybody's responsibility. Protect our public spaces and natural environment by doing the right thing for today and tomorrow.
If you see illegal dumping,
Dob in a dumper.
see it, report it, stop it.
Sign up to Council's disaster and weather event warning system. Receive alerts about emergency news, severe weather events and other public safety alerts via SMS or email. Registering to the disaster messaging system is free. To register, visit Gladstone Regional Council's Region Watch website and click on the Register for Warnings button. Get ready, Gladstone. Take the steps to protect what's most important to you. Let's be better prepared and protected for emergencies and disasters.
Gladstone Regional Council are committed to fostering a proud, involved and engaged community. The Gladstone Regional Council Community Investment Program provides financial support to local community initiatives, projects and events which promote community connections, regional enhancements, community celebrations and community education. For more information on the Community Investment Program, visit gladstone.qld.gov.au. Gladstone Regional Council. Connect, innovate, diversify.
Thank you. Welcome back. We have the one confidential item which has been discussed in confidential for the reasons stated before. They are regarding our out-of-policy water leak concession request on lot 14 SP 210496. Councillors, do I have a recommendation, please? Councillor Muscat.
Hello, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Sorry, I'm just going to go back to the agenda. Yeah, I wanted to move the officer's recommendation to decline the request to apply a concession under the policy. Or that's right. So the council does not grant an out-of-policy concession with respect to water consumption charges levied on lot 14 on the rating assessment number 29431-4.
Thank you, Councillor Muscat. Is there a second for that motion, please?
I'll second the motion, Mr Mayor, on the basis of acknowledging and recognising that our out-of-policy concession clearly articulates in there for not for commercial operators but for residential.
Would you like to add that to the motion? Okay.
No, just wanted to make it noted.
Thank you, Councillor Churchill. I have a mover in Councillor Muscat, a second in Councillor Churchill, that Council does not grant an out-of-policy concession with respect to water consumption charges levied on lot 14 SP 201496, rating assessment number 29431-4. Is there any other debate on this? Councillor Goodluck.
Mr Mayor, I won't be supporting this motion today. The intent of this, of the water leak concession policy, is to provide some relief in the instance where there is a concealed water leak and there's been a shock as far as a large bill to a proponent, and we have made these sorts of out-of-policy considerations in the past, and I think this is, for me, this is a time where we can do so again, so I can't support that motion today.
Thank you, Councillor Goodluck. Is there any further discussion, debate or questions to the officers? No further discussion, debate. I have a mover in Councillor Muscat, second, and Councillor Churchill. I'll put the motion. All in favour? Those against? 1, 2, 3, 4. Councillor Hanson? Okay, the motion is lost. Oh, sorry. Councillor Hanson, you're on mute. Sorry, I need to see your...
Put my hand up for the motion.
Okay, sorry.
In favour of the motion.
I'll put that motion again. The motion is moved by Councillor Muscat, seconded by Councillor Churchill. All those in favour of the motion? 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, those against? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The motion is lost. Another mover for an alternative motion. For all, of course we have now. Councillor O'Grady is not in the room. That 1, 2, 3. Carried on the casting vote of the Mayor. Thank you. Can we have Councillor O'Grady back in the room, please? Thank you. Yeah, I counted Mark as Councillor O'Grady. Sorry about that, Mark. Thank you, Councillor O'Grady. Actually, that is the last item on the agenda. We have no further business for today's general meeting, and at 11:55 I declare the meeting closed. Thank you for your attendance.